Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I want to welcome you back. Today, we're talking about having bold faith in your life's calling. And so I'm going to ask you a question. What constitutes having bold faith? I want you to think about that as we talk about this today, because having bold faith requires us to do things that really don't make any sense. I'm going to read an excerpt from a story in the Bible today that, it doesn't even seem real when you think about in the natural, and that's what bold faith must do to us if we're going to actually accomplish our mission and our calling. So let's jump right into this. Why would I be talking about bold faith? Here's why we're talking about bold faith, because when it comes to your mission, your calling, the purpose for your life, typically we're going to have to do things that someone else may not have ever done. Like some of the things that, God put on my plate, no one had ever done those things before. Some of the things are contrary to the things that I've learned. Some of those things are contrary to what my coaches have said. Some of the things are contrary to what I've discovered, even while I've been on the journey. And it's just like, well, what do I believe? It's like, well, you got to have bold faith to even know. So I was thinking about this morning. I got up this morning, I go to the gym and, I'm at the gym, changing up my routine, got things to do. And, you always wonder what's the next step? Like what does one actually do? So as I'm, at the gym, I always want to listen to something, it could be listening to a book. It could be listening to, a training, a video, something that kind of keeps me learning. I don't really actually, when I turn my phone on and I don't want motivation. Like, I don't want music to pump me up. I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for is, let me make the best use of my time while I'm here. It's crazy because she asked me a question. It was actually yesterday evening. She was like, what do you like doing? Like, and so as we talked about it, I said, well, you got to get really specific on how you ask me this question, because, based on how you ask me the question, I'm just going to answer it and say, well, I really only want to do the things that I've been created to do and the things that God wants me to do. That's all I really want to do. And because when I read the Bible, when I read the story, Jesus' life and his story, I said, well, what was he doing? He was only doing what his father said to do. He was only doing what his purpose was. So even though he probably had a good time doing it, because remember, in one of those stories, if you're a Bible student, so you know this story where he sent the 12 out, and he sent them out, gave them power. And when they came back and told him all the good things that happened. Oh my goodness, we were healing the sick. We were doing all the stuff. Da, 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 da. And the Bible says that he was excited. They didn't use that word, but that's what I'm saying. Like in his spirit jumped for joy because he saw it working. He created a leadership program. Come on. Jesus had a leadership program that he was working with some people, and he tested whether or not the program was working by sending them out to do the thing that they were watching him do. So in their discovery, they said, wow, we were able to do things that we saw you doing that we didn't know we could do. So he leaped for joy because he's like, this is good. Now, you will do greater things than that. Wait a second. Hold. Let's take it a step down. We're going to come down. How can Jesus tell them they're going to do greater things than that, in greater things that he's done, when they're looking at him like, well, you're the guru, you're the master? He's saying, but hey guys, your callings, your purpose, it's big. And you gotta have some faith. You gotta have some faith. And he even, listen, I'm gonna get back to my story in a second. He tested this. In one of the stories, Jesus had gone off, right? You remember the story where Jesus went off, and he sent them back in the boat. They all went and got on the boat and they were going to go over. So how in the heck was he going to get over? Like they're going to take the boat and they're going to go across the water, but he's not coming. So how he going to get there? They didn't see, these are questions that you have to say to yourself, wait a second. How was he going to get back to where they were if they were taking the boat over the water? There was no other travel. So how's he going to get there? No one's thinking, no, that's not in the Bible. No one put in there that they questioned him or they said, well, Jesus, how the heck you going to get over there? How you going to meet us there if we're taking the boat? So they're in the water and then it gets rough seas. These are fishermen and they're afraid. And the next thing you know, they see something. And they're like, what is that? A ghost? And then there's a famous part of the story where Peter was like, oh, it's him. And then in Matthew 14, verse 20, I'm going to read 28 and 29. Matthew 28 says, and Peter answered Jesus and said, Lord, if it be you, tell me to come unto you on the water. Tell me that I can do something. So now Peter calling him, look, having bold faith. Listen, you got to have bold faith in your life's calling. And so here it is, Peter saying, well, look, I'm going to have bold faith. Tell me I got it. And then verse 29, and he said, come, Peter, why don't you come on out here with me? So they first saw a ghost. Now it's their master. And he says, come. And when Peter was come down out of the ship, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. These kind of stories don't make sense. I'm going to just keep it real today. They don't make any sense, guys. There's never been a person to walk on water. There's never been a person, let alone two people, walking on the water. Now, in the movies, yes, I've seen people walk on water in the movies, but there's never been a person to walk on water. So Jesus is walking on water. And then the idea in the story says that Jesus says, hey, Pete, come on over. You walk on water too. And he walks on water. Now the story goes into, once Peter took his eye off him, he goes in the water. But let's just assume he's just walking on water right now. See, because in your life's calling, you're going to have to walk on some water, guys. All right, I'm going to talk to myself. Jay, in your life's calling, you're going to have to walk on water. You're going to have to step out in bold. Not faith, but bold. It has to be so audaciously bold that it doesn't even seem possible that you can do it. It doesn't make sense that you did it. It doesn't even compute that it happened. I'm thankful for today. I'm thankful that God leaves us these breadcrumbs in these little stories, these scriptures, these verses. He left us enough. He left us enough that you must take it for yourself. You must take it for yourself, and you must do what you have to do for yourself to actually know this kind of stuff. You have to know it. So having bold faith is absolutely necessary for your life's calling, because your life's calling, think about this. If you knew what your life's calling was, but you didn't actually take the call, there's an excerpt in the book that talks about waking up to the call. There's, and within this book, within the book, it talks about how Sometimes you don't want the call. Sometimes the call is just, it's scary. It's scary that the call comes in. It's like late night and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and the phone rings, and and your brother who's out there, and he sells drugs, and he's on the streets, and you never know what's going on, and the phone rings, and you freeze because you're like, no, no, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm just hoping that no, I don't want that to happen. And then you pick the phone up. Okay, it's not that, but it's something else. But you still had to pick it up. And then when you pick it up, you say to yourself, oh, man, this is hard. See, when the call comes in, we've got to get bold. You got to stand tall. You got to say, you know what? If my life has been created for more, if my life has been created for the elevation of just one life, and I don't actually elevate the one life, it was a waste of time. All right, so what we're going to take away today. Here's what we're going to take away. Peter was afraid. Peter went from being afraid to stepping out in bold faith. Now, how did Peter step out in bold faith? One, there was someone that he trusted. He trusted Jesus. And because he trusted him, he says, hey, if you tell me I can, I'm going to do it. And so Peter was afraid just before he decided that, you know what, this is somebody I'm familiar with. I can listen. So you know what? I'm coming. So Peter was afraid. He trusted. And then without thinking, without realizing whether or not he could do it, he just stepped out in faith. Today, as you move into your day, as you take a cue from Peter, be afraid. Be afraid. Be afraid. It's okay. Be afraid. But know that when there's the one who's there to just say, come to me, come to me. When you go to him, sometimes you may have to, like in this life, you may need a friend. You may need a mentor. You may need a coach. By having a mentor or a coach, that will help you to step out in faith. So you want to step out in faith. Your life's calling is more important than your occupation. Unless your occupation is your life's calling. But I would just say your life's calling is more important than your occupation. Focus on stepping out in bold faith today. Don't allow another day to go by that you don't realize that your calling, your mission, your purpose is more important than everything, than all the fun that we can have in this life. Because in this life will end. This life will end. So we need to just stay focused on what this life is really all about, which is your calling. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. I'm Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for your life. God bless. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.